fellow Homo sapiens and hunters and gatherers, those of you out there that rely upon your thoracic spine for your hunting and gathering, throwing, propelling and swinging objects, episode 6 right here, going after implementing the sagittal plane a little bit more for our type 2 out of sync and in sync progression, so our extension and our flexion progression. So what we're going to start with right off the bat, let's go back to the LXX position. Again, same kind of setup that I'll use in the clinic in terms of the checklist. What's the most restricted? What's the most successful? Going after the most successful so that we can bridge the gap between least and most successful to be symmetrically balanced per se. So LXX, what we're going to do in terms of our sagittal plane driver, right arm is going to reach overhead, so you're side bending left. The left arm is going to rotate to the left. Head and eyes for right now in thoracic spine wise. I'm just going to take it and I'm going to rotate it to the left. See if I can get squeeze a little more juice from the orange being my thoracic spine. The right arm, if we're going sagittal plane, is going the side bending overhead to the left. But it's going to not only reach overhead to the left, but behind me on an angle, so almost 135-degree angle, posterior lateral. Right behind me to get a little more extension. And so what this looks like is this. Left arm is rotating to the left, right arm is reaching overhead to the left, and overhead and behind us. Left arm is going with it, and I'm going to go in sync. Type 2 in sync with a little sagittal plane like driver, so that nine-way little box would be an E and a left side bend, left rotation for a type 2 in sync and out of sync. What that would look like if we switch sides, right leg forward and the left leg back, with our type 2 out of sync, pelvis in a position in which it is rotated left and shoulder girdle rotating to the right. Give us that out of sync motion right there. We're going again with that sagittal plane, that extension like bias. Eyes and nose and head are going to be going to the right to drive a little more rotation in the thoracic spine. So we're here, but left arm is not only reaching straight overhead to the right, this R90 position, but 135 back and behind us to give us a little more extension. I'll start with my eyes and head pointed forward, and then I'll run off trail. And I'll run off trail. And so what I'll do now, if I want a little more, got a cervical spine mold, I'll point it forward, or I'll just keep rotating it to the right. Type 2 out of sync, type 2 in sync. Looking for symmetry and a good contribution throughout the chain. What we'll do next, with regards to going after some flexion, a couple different ways that you can go after getting the flexion. So in episode 6 and I think it was in episode 2, we went after troubleshooting the different positions that we can get our type 2 and our type 1 motions based on, again, kind of the pathology of things, so to speak, pertaining to whether it's the shoulder, the cervical spine, and just overall some gunkiness and irritation. But what we're going to do right here to get a little flexion, we can still go overhead, but we'll use kind of this this flex trunk kind of positioning to drive the flexion. And then I'm going to show you one more position for this. So what I'll do, if I want to look at just kind of the flexion right here, this is a way with the arm overhead. It's an option. It's not one that I will most typically go for when I look at flexion, but I'm going to show you this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little lean as I run with it. So I'm going to lean into it. Right arm is reaching overhead and to the left, and left arm is going to swing and rotate kind of about knee high. Type 2 out of sync, and now type 2 in sync. Can shorten up the foot stance a little bit. It's in a fairly deep kind of lunge position, which we'll get to. And then we'll switch positions. So we'll go type 2 out of sync with the right rotation. And so I'll go my head rotating right. I can go with a little deeper stance. I can add my single leg toe touchdowns. Just take up the slack of the hips. And we'll go with my forward kind of trunk lean. Type 2 out of sync and then in sync. Let's go ahead and show you kind of an option that I prefer. We talked about in episode 6 in terms of right here with not reaching overhead. An option that goes with not reaching overhead would be this upper extremity driver that's maybe shoulder or chest high with a just kind of contralateral or an ipsilateral rotation, whether it's out of sync or in sync. What I'll do with those guys, I'll just drop the rotational arm to either chest to waist or knee high, and I'll add just a little trunk lean to it, and I'll say, all right, left hand, touch the ground. Try to touch the ground for me. And that right arm, just gonna swing like you're swinging or flipping a frisbee. Just try and get about knee high. And so I can go that wider, kind of lunge-like stance. I can just kind of shorten it up, kind of add a little squat to it, a little type 2 in sync, kind of the flexion bias. A few of these positions, in terms of the flexion, some of my patients at L-spine wise have a little spondylosis in the L-spine. Love it with regards to being able to open that up in that sagittal plane. Let's go with the right rotation for our type 2 out of sync and then in sync with the flexion bias. So RXX stance, the left arm is rotating chest to knee high with the right arm, right hand, fingers, just literally trying to reach and touch the ground. So, and again, clinic-wise, that's what I'll do with my patients. See how they move as we kind of add the Troupling hybrid. Head and eyes are going to go with it. Head and eyes will go with it. So we talked about previously being able to kind of preset some things. And so with regards to some of the type 2 stuff, now that we've gone through episode 5 and 6, I really think that, so episode 1 through 4, we preset with some upper extremity like stuff with a dowel, which I won't typically start off with assessment wise in the clinic unless someone's really hot, really lit up, and really irritable, and really amongst kind of this gnarly acute flare up. What I will do though, I'll use the trunk, the hips or the belly button as a way to kind of preset things, to kind of take out some slack first. So if I was going after type 2 out of sync and in sync, and let's say maybe rotation left and right was okay, but maybe side bend and extension or flexion was something that I wanted to go after a little bit more, I would preset with some rotation. So I'd maybe take a little slack out of the chain per se, so that I'm already rotated and not moving in with rotation. So I'd preset so that I can still rotate left, but not as much, so that I can kind of drive in the other planes a little bit more. So what I mean by that is, okay, left rotation is okay, but left side bend and extension, when I kind of trouble that with our type 2 to that side, is a little bit wacky, a little bit kind of gunky. So what I'll do, I'll preset some left rotation. I'll go with my posterior lateral reach with the right arm. And the left arm is still going to rotate and swing, but I've kind of preset myself already to the left. If you can see my trunk, so before we'd start from here and move, and now I'm just starting kind of this 45 to 90 degree angle and position. It's totally based on the individual. We don't want to take up too much slack from the system because that will disable motion, and we want to create motion. I'm just saying that this is a way that we can hypothesize that if we were to take just a little bit of slack out of one of the systems to kind of help facilitate and preset, that we can drive to get some motion in the other planes. Found some pretty good success with doing that. So again, I'll preset with my left rotation, and boom, and boom. Let's say side bending was okay to the left with Type II in sync and out of sync. Maybe I'm going to preset with the right upper extremity reaching overhead to the left. Maybe it's kind of preset with a little bit of this overhead reach to the left, and maybe posterior lateral into extension, so that I can drive some left rotation a little bit more, and vice versa. If I'm a little more successful with the left rotation, maybe I want to go after presetting some frontal plane, some side bending, or some extension, so I can take advantage of where I'm already kind of successful. We talked about that, but not every patient, not every individual is going to respond the same. Just another option, throwing it out there in terms of how patients respond. So let's maybe just, kind of preset it with that frontal plane. I'm still driving in the frontal plane. Left arm is rotating and swinging. And then maybe I want to preset it a little more in the sagittal and frontal. The right arm with that posterior lateral. Boom, Type II, out of sync. Type II in sync. Boom, boom, and boom. Repeat it.